David crashes out in court. Chaos erupts as he attacks Celeste's mother and leaves everyone asking if he's being controlled. In one of the most shocking courtroom moments ever captured David, the young man accused of taking the life of his girlfriend Celeste, completely lost control during his trial, lashing out in a violent rage that left everyone stunned and speechless. What began as another tense day in court suddenly turned into total chaos when David jumped from his seat and charged at Celeste's grieving mother, screaming words no one could even make sense of. He had to be restrained by multiple officers before anything worse could happen. And now, people are wondering, was that really David acting on his own? Or is someone else pulling the strings behind the scenes? Please do not forget to like this video, share and subscribe to this channel if you want more updates like this. Thank you. Now, let's get back into the video. The courtroom was already tense that morning. The media had been circling the courthouse like vultures, waiting for any slip, any reaction that could make headlines. Inside, David sat stiffly, his orange jumpsuit hanging loose on his thin frame, his eyes sunken and hollow. He had barely spoken since the start of the trial, only occasionally whispering something to his lawyer. Some reporters described him as empty, others said haunted, but nobody could have predicted what would unfold next. Celeste's mother had been called to testify about her last moments with her daughter. Her voice cracked as she described the final phone call, the worry she felt, and the gut-wrenching silence that followed. The whole room was heavy. You could feel the grief pressing down like fog. David stared at her the entire time, expression unreadable. But when she said his name, when she looked right at him and said, "David took my baby from me," something inside him snapped. Witnesses say David's entire demeanor changed instantly. He slammed his hands on the table so hard the entire courtroom echoed. The guards rushed forward, but he was already on his feet, shouting words that nobody could clearly understand. His voice was raw, almost possessed. "You don't know what you're talking about," he yelled. "You don't know what they made me do." That line, "You don't know what they made me do," has now become the center of a growing storm of speculation. Some say it was just the rambling of a broken man under pressure. Others, however, believe it's something far darker, that maybe David isn't as in control of his own actions as people thought. Within seconds, chaos erupted. The bailiffs and deputies scrambled to restrain him. But David pushed past one of them with shocking strength and lunged directly towards Celeste's mother. People screamed. Reporters dropped their cameras. Celeste's family members jumped from their seats. One of the officers tackled David before he could reach her, but even on the ground, he kept shouting, thrashing, and cursing, his voice hoarse, his eyes wide like he was in some kind of trance. The judge slammed her gavel repeatedly, yelling for order, but it was too late. The courtroom had dissolved into mayhem. Even after David was dragged out, his voice echoed down the hallway. "You don't know what's really happening," he shouted, his words fading as he was pulled away. Outside the courthouse, the crowd of onlookers went wild. Social media exploded within minutes. Clips of David's breakdown spread across platforms like wildfire. The hashtag David crashes out trended for hours, with everyone from influencers to legal analysts trying to make sense of what they'd just witnessed. Some said it was guilt, pure, uncontrollable guilt finally breaking through his cold exterior. Others said it was anger, the frustration of being accused, judged, and cornered. But a growing number of voices began whispering another theory. Maybe David isn't just a broken man. Maybe he's being controlled. According to rumors circulating online, David had mentioned something strange in earlier police interviews that never made it into mainstream reports. He'd said that someone told him what to do. At the time, investigators brushed it off as a weak attempt to deflect blame. But after this courtroom meltdown, people are starting to look at it differently. One online thread claims that David was seen receiving mysterious phone calls in the weeks before Celeste's death. Another alleged that his social media accounts were accessed by unknown users shortly after the incident. Nothing has been confirmed, but the internet doesn't need confirmation to start building a narrative. And now, with that chilling outburst, "You don't know what they made me do," conspiracy theories have caught fire. Reporters later spoke to people who knew David personally. Some said he'd changed drastically in the months before everything happened. Once quiet and artistic, he became withdrawn and paranoid. He talked about voices and pressure. One old friend even claimed that David had confided in him, saying there were people bigger than him who were watching everything he did. But the strangest part is how his behavior in court didn't just look like rage. It looked like confusion, like he was fighting something inside his own head. Several witnesses described his eyes as vacant, his movements jerky, almost robotic, as if he wasn't entirely present. Could David have been manipulated, or was he simply losing his grip on reality? After being restrained and dragged from the courtroom, David was taken to a holding cell where sources say he continued to shout and bang on the walls for nearly 20 minutes. One guard, speaking anonymously, said David kept repeating the same phrase over and over. "They told me not to say anything. They told me to stay quiet." Who are they? That's the question everyone's asking now. Some think it's a metaphor. They could be guilt, trauma, or hallucinations. Others believe they refers to real people, maybe part of some underground circle or organization connected to Celeste's death. A few even think David was being blackmailed or brainwashed. Whatever the truth is, the courtroom meltdown has cracked open a door that can't be closed. The next morning, the courthouse released an official statement condemning David's behavior and announcing that the trial will be postponed until further notice. Celeste's family is said to be deeply traumatized by the event, with her mother now under medical observation for shock. Meanwhile, David's defense team has requested a full psychological evaluation, claiming their client is not in a stable mental state to proceed. But here's where it gets even stranger. During that same evaluation, one of the psychiatrists reportedly heard David mutter something chilling under his breath. "It's not over until they say it's over." That phrase has now joined the growing list of cryptic quotes attributed to him, and each one only deepens a mystery. As news stations replayed the courtroom footage, body language experts began dissecting every frame. Some pointed out that when Celeste's mother said David's name, his pupils dilated, a classic sign of emotional overload. Others noticed how he looked toward the back of the courtroom right before he snapped, almost as if he saw someone or was reacting to a signal. A still image from that moment shows David's eyes fixated on something unseen, while everyone else was focused on a witness stand. Who or what was he looking at?